Hello and welcome. It's good to have you join us on this week's episode of Almond Finance and Wealth Reports. I am your host, Jennifer Obidi. This week, we begin by joining Faith and her guests on a town hall as they continue their discussion on no premium, no cover. How far, how well, in our usual no-holds-barred manner. Do take a listen.
If it's a relationship that has been there for quite a while, particularly for those who are institutional clients, perhaps you know that from history, if just for 1 or 2 weeks delay, they will still be able to collect the premium. Then in that case, perhaps maybe you could try and look the other way.
Also to come on this week's episode is a highlight of the ICAN economic discourse that was held recently at the Moson Center on Nikon.
Capital flows are bigger than trade flows in the world that we are today. And Nigeria is largely cut off from the capital flow end of it. And that's why export hurts us so much.
And last but not least, we'll bring you our industry icon segment. Now I want you to do me a little favor by just sitting back and relaxing as we bring you all the details of today's program coming up shortly after the break. Please stay with us.
Okay, now you did mention that before the enforcement of the no premium, no cover,
Yes.
government accounts has always been the major problem. How is it now? Is it different from what we used to have? Because as we speak, the current budget for this year has not been passed. So how is that playing out under the no premium, no cover policy?
I can tell you. Maybe before he answers that question,
I think
is it on the previous question you just throw to the president?
Yes.
Is it strictly speaking? I think it would be like trying to circumvent that provision of the Act, and the law should really take its course. But then you might also want to agree with them that perhaps you need to treat each client on its own individual merit. If it's a relationship that has been there for quite a while, particularly for those who are institutional clients, perhaps you know that from history, if just for 1 or 2 weeks delay, they will still be able to collect the premium. Then in that case, perhaps maybe you could try and look the other way. But for individuals, things could go wrong. Things could go wrong. I'm not talking about.
Within our jurisdiction, we are aware, like we have in the banks, how many default rates are there. And it was the consequence of defaults of clients of insurance companies, both government, private individuals, and corporate entities, that gave birth to the commission churning out and declaring January 1st, 2013 as an effective date. So you will have a basket of corporates. Who amongst them, out of 10, would you say because then you pick to say? Because even government, we say government don't go broke. But then government also owe, like the president have said. So does it mean government is broke? The company may not be broke. What I want to bring in is, as an example, is if you were to buy MTN line or credit, is it paid in advance? Would MTN give you credit, and for what length of time?
They do it now.
They do it, yes. You can actually borrow. You can borrow now.
You can borrow
airtime and pay later.
Yes, they know what they are doing, and you can also imagine that the quantum is very, very insignificant.
Yes, you see, the point Mr. Thompson is trying to make is when you look at insurance, it's a universal thing.
Yes.
And it has its own principles. If we want it to work, then we must practice it the way it should be practiced. Consideration, which is the premium we're talking about, is a condition, a very good, very important condition for a valid contract, insurance contract for that matter. So if there's no consideration, then how can we say there is a contract of insurance? Strictly, I mean, by that principle, it's something that must be enforced. And if you look elsewhere, apart from Nigeria, I'm not sure they know what we call no premium, no cover. Because to them, they know it is the normal thing to do. As you are buying insurance, you pay your premium. That's what shows there's a contract in force. So really, I think Nigeria, particularly Africa, it seems to be a very special species of human being. It's not only in Nigeria, because after Nigeria started Ghana followed suit, Gambia also followed suit. And it's working for them.
Yeah, it's working for us here too.
Yeah, it's working for us.
Okay, so let me bring you back to the question of the government, because they were the biggest buyers of insurance and biggest defaulters on payment of premium. So under the no premium, no cover policy, as I said, as we speak, the 2017 budget is yet to be passed. And when you're paying for insurance premium, I want to assume that government will be paying based on what they have scheduled on the budget to pay for premium of insurance every year. Well, I don't know. The president is shaking his head.
Yes, let me come before the president.
Okay.
Since it was earlier directed to me. In terms of government paying their own premium, yeah, I can say yes, they pay. Now, we got to a transition period already, and we have passed that stage. It happened in 2013, between 2013 and 2014, and it's been moving on, that when you receive money from government agency, any of the MDAs, the cover takes effect from that day when the money was received. And of course, there was a circular that was sent to all MDAs from the Office of the Head of Service to this effect, that all MDAs should pay their premium. And then we have also taken it, and it's been accepted in government that whenever government money comes out, it takes effect. And of course, if it is a 1-year tenure policy, it runs either from a 1st April to a 31st March of the following year. And of course, insurance companies are not expected to give cover for a date much later than that period or tenure. insurance companies are also forbidden by the provision of this act.
Forbidden.
Yes. From backdating covers.
Okay.
So how can you?
There's going to be a gap.
No,
Yes, so
there's going to be a gap. Yeah, we'll come to that.
Okay.
So now, because they will not backdate cover, government is conscious of it. The managers of MDAs are aware of this, and it is known to us all, even those of us from the private sector, that yes, government budgets, even corporate budgets, don't get passed or implemented from 1st of January in a year. It's not done.
Yeah.
So everybody have gotten to a level where that 3 months should be factored into their planning period. And once that is done, it's only a rolling over that or cycle that will take you a 1st April to a 31st March, or as the case may be. And I give you an example. In 2014, it happened that a major government insurance business, the premium running into some billions of naira, came in about August. The other was about April, and the cover took effect from that time. So now the question will be for that gap.
Yes. So what's going to happen?
What if the risk
Crystallizes at that time.
There was no risk.
Okay. How do you mean?
But some events may have taken place.
When you said there was no risk,
There was risk, there was no cover. Okay, put it that way.
That's the
now,
point I'm
the question to ask is, what were the institutions of the MDAs, the managers of the MDAs, what strategies were they taking to meet up that? We have also argued, presented, and accepted in all MDAs that where there is there's likelihood of a gap between the commencement of a cover and when the last terminated. There should be alternative provision there should be budgetary allocation to cover the risk that will occur within those periods.
How is that possible?
Yes,
how do they make that
it has been done. It has been done, and it
It's
worked.
easier said than done.
We are aware of some that took place.
You see, there are so many constraints, that inhibit us that we have. For example, under the BPP, the Bureau for Public Procurement, there's this need to issue bids.
Advertise.
Both to advertise bids, both for the insurance company and for the insurance brokers. These are the things that create the lacunas, because the process usually is elongated more than it should. And these are some of the, I'm not saying the only, but some of the reasons why covers may not attach. And when they now take a decision as to who is going to be the broker or the insurer, when they take that decision, then the issue of looking for the fund comes depending on the period. Budgetary allocation that we're all talking about, you can come in to hang it. And then they also want to negotiate the premium. But one of the solutions that some of the MDAs or some agencies of government had crafted out is to have what we call multi-period, what I call it, more than 1 year coverage.
Is that normal practice?
No, it's not in the other parts of the world, especially on the energy side. You could have and the reasons might be to reduce cost. Because when you buy in advance, your cost comes down. But the point I'm trying to make here for the government side is, I said it's easier said than done. But by the time they take that decision, before they now pay, they've appointed, and there's one going on right now, many going on right now, where they have appointed, and then letters of appointment have been released. But everybody's waiting. Once they pay, that's when cover starts.
Now cover starts that time, and if it is a 1 year tenure cover, it rolls for the next 1 year.
Yes.
And you can be sure, because of the consciousness and the level of enlightenment and involvement and engagement that the Commission have had with MDAs. The period of the BPP, the due process, and all of that are commenced early enough. And a lot of them are also conscious of the spillover into the new year and the period this allows or is available for them to make use of. That is there.
I want to assume that most of the MDAs you are talking about, they probably have a risk management unit.
They have insurance desk officers.
Yeah, so that's supposed to be part of the responsibilities of the insurance desk person.
Yes.
You are aware, you knew right from the outset that your policy is going to run for a number of months, and after that, if nothing is done, okay, after it has expired, if there is no attempt to renew, then you will not be covered. They will have done something before that time comes, unless that insurance unit or desk is not functioning. If it is functioning well, then you can, of course, plan ahead so that there's no gap. Because when there is gap, that means you are exposed. The exposure is there, and not just to you, okay, but to others too, to others who you might affect by your action or your inaction. Okay, so all this should actually be factored in.
And that is our crusade, really, to make sure that they make provisions ahead of time, and allocations too.
Speed up the process.
And at the end of the day, that's what we're all wishing, and we hope we will get.
I want to rather add and say that we are on the regulatory side, and from all we have seen so far, we do not have issues with government businesses anymore. We don't have.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. We now move on to the highlights of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria ICAN Economic Discourse that was held recently at the Moson Center, Oniko. The theme was Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. Chairman of session was Professor Charles Soludo, former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, while guest speaker was Mr. Bismarck Ruway, MD Financial Derivatives Co. Limited. It was indeed a high-powered event. Enjoy.
The Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICAN, as part of its contribution to national development, recently put together its 2017 Economic Discourse at the Moson Center. The theme was Assessment of Economic Recovery and Growth Plan and the 2017 Budget. The chairman of the session was former Central Bank Governor, Professor Charles Soludo. Welcoming participants to the discourse, the 52nd president of ICAN, Deacon Titus Shoetan, said that although government is not expected to be involved in enterprise, they must provide a framework that will promote business.
Granted that the government is no longer expected to be involved in enterprise, it is still required to put in the legal framework, institutional and microeconomic framework that will bring in private initiative. A favorable atmosphere for business to flourish must be created and managed actively so that it is sustained. We have been driven by our imagination and the desire to transform Nigeria into what we firmly believe is definitely possible, the giant of Africa. It is my belief that this discourse will reawaken the entrepreneurship spirit of our people to invest faithfully and to venture in more bravely into social and economic development of Nigeria.
Delivering his paper, the guest speaker, Mr. Bismarck Ruway, MD and CEO of Financial Derivatives, stated that it is true that the economy is recovering, but the question we all need to ask is it sustainable?
A lot of people are already celebrating. Yes, it is true, the economy is recovering. Yes, it is true. There are baby steps. It is true that the currency has recovered somewhat. But the question is it for real? 1. 2, is it sustainable? And 3, what happens when government investment in infrastructure, when we start paying those big bills? What happens when the power stations start coming in? What happens when the airport bills start getting paid? What happens when the bridges and roads and all the infrastructure? Right now, you are not spending nothing. Now, so, what we have seen, Q1, the GDP numbers are going to come out next month on the 30th of May. We expect to see about 0.5% growth in Q1, driven by oil production. 2, allowing the currency, not allowing the currency, just increasing the supply of the currency. Because what has happened, you've increased the quantity supplied, and you did a minor policy shift of about 4.67%. How do you do that? You moved the invisibles from 305 to 375 and back to 360. That effectively, using a weighted average of about 20% of invisibles, brought you to an average exchange rate of about 324, 325 naira to a dollar.
There is no doubt that the current administration is looking at various ways to diversify the economy from overdependence on oil. Panelists at the discourse were Dr. Ayo Teriba, CEO Economic Associates, Mr. Muda Yusuf, DG, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, Partner, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and Dr. Obadiah Malafia, former Deputy Governor, CBN. In his submission during the panel discussion, Mr. Muda Yusuf said that if we want to push the economy, we must think outside of government.
If you really want to push this economy, you have to look outside of government and look at how we can push the other segments that exist outside of government. That is the import of this. And what will the private sector bring to the table? It is investment. And the main driver of investment is confidence. So we look at how much damage has been done to confidence by policies in the last 2 years or thereabout, and how the ERDP may correct some of these shortcomings. I will run through that very quickly. Of course, the components of private investment. We have domestic investment. We have foreign direct investment. We have foreign portfolio investment. To make progress along all these lines, we need to ensure that we show up the level of confidence. Because it is the confidence level that will make people invest. Whether you're a domestic investor or you're a foreign investor.
Given the high-level deliberations of the event, participants asked questions. The annual ICAN Economic Discourse is a platform for the promotion and defense of public policy of government.
Listen up as Faith Owode brings you our Pidgin English program, Waiting Insurance They Do Serve, with different guests every week, airing live on Niger FM 102.7 at 9:45 a.m. every Wednesday.
And that's all we can take on this week's episode. I do hope you loved every bit of it. Join us again next week for another interesting episode. For now, don't forget you can connect with us on all our social media platforms and be informed that this program also airs on BCOS Television Ibadan every Thursdays at 6 p.m. My name is Jennifer Obidiabubi. Many thanks for watching, and until we come your way next week, from all of us here, it's goodbye.